Welcome to the LMS show. Give yourselves a big hand. Ben E. King. You heard that song, Myles from Harlem? Don't play that song. Darling, I love you. You know that you're lying. No, we lying here with Myles gonna tell you during this half hour, folks. We're giving the whole floor. No relation to me, but he could become your distant cousin after he tell you this. Ladies and gentlemen, without no further ado, this is Myles Matthews, and give him a big hand. Myles Matthews, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, I am fine. You're an adjunct professor at Pace.
Pace University, Leuven School of Business, and Vaughn College of Aeronautics and Technology.
Tell us, you're a friend. We have a mutual friend, Ray Watkins.
Ray Watkins and I grew up together. What's unique about that is our mothers grew up together in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
And when they migrated to New York, they ended up one block apart. I lived on 126th and 5th, he lived on 127th and 5th, and we were born 6 months apart, and have been together all our lives. So,
Ray did a couple of shows for me, and Ray recommended you very highly.
thank you.
And after the full conversation that we had, we running this tape all the way through, I almost dropped the phone, the information, the pearls of wisdom, Ramon had here, the pearls of wisdom this gentleman has bestowed upon me. I remember listening to you one night on the late Kiss FM, was on the Weekend Review show.
Weekend Review with Cutman.
The Cutman. And you said that they told you not to come back up there.
I can never come back on Kiss because...
Well, they're not back neither.
Well, now that it's BLS, I still can't go back because I shut down their phone system for a whole week with people calling in.
For a whole week?
And what happened is I was on the show explaining to people how we could train them for jobs to become licensed customs brokers,
Tell us about that.
freight forwarders, logistics specialists. A customs broker is responsible for everything in this bookstore because it was all imported from somewhere, and without a customs broker signing off on the documents, it could not enter the commerce of the United States. And it's a position that has existed since the beginning of man, but we know very little about it.
Why we don't know too much about it?
Because it's not something that's promoted publicly, because it's been handed down family to family for centuries. And people are not aware of the fact that a licensed customs broker has to bring everything into the commerce of the United States. And for example, of the 222 countries and territories in the world, if you take just us in Canada, today we did $5 billion worth of business with Canada today. That's times 365. So that gives you a sense of the kind of revenue that I'm talking about. And we just don't pay attention to that. And when President Obama was asked how did he expect to correct the financial difficulties that the United States had, he said, if I can double exports, that will eliminate our whole deficit. And the general public didn't understand it. In his most recent State of the Union, he reiterated that they still don't understand it. And then he said, I want to create a free trade agreement with the European Union, and that went past everybody again. When they heard him in the debate talking with Mitt Romney, and Mitt Romney was complaining about how he had taken the oil contracts back that existed in the United States, what no one understood is, unfortunately, we call them reservations, but where we stuck the Aboriginal community some 500 years ago, because, well, some people call them Native Americans, some people call them Indians, I call them Aboriginals, because that's the proper title. What they didn't understand is the land they were given was because they couldn't grow crops on it. The reason that they couldn't grow crops on it is beneath it was oil and natural gas. So now the Obama administration has exposed that the United States has more oil reserves than Saudi Arabia, has more natural gas than the Russian Federation. So they will not have to worry about any more casinos because they're now multimillionaires and billionaires with oil and natural gas. They have replaced Australia selling natural gas to the People's Republic of China already. And no one wants to talk about that.
Isn't that karma?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's very similar to what happened in our community in Oklahoma that was called Black Wall Street.
Yes.
Where were stuck on land that no one understood what was underneath it. And at the time, it was horse and buggy. But then when automobiles came about and you needed oil and gasoline, then they became multimillionaires and were loaning money to the town next door that then one day came and killed them all. And there's a lawsuit now being conducted by the Harvard University Law School to get reparations for their grandchildren and their children.
How one should go about for the customs?
To become a customs broker, you have to be 21 years of age, an American citizen, and have good credit and no criminal record, because you are now responsible for bringing in everything into the United States. So
is college required?
No, I said 21 years of age, and you have to pass a written exam, a license exam, and that's what we train you to pass. And we're now responsible for at least 30% of the African Americans that are customs brokers in the United States.
What we're going to do, because we're on YouTube and we're on public access, at the end of the program, we're going to put down for the credits, and we're going to put you down there, and for people to contact you, okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
And what I teach at Pace University is a course that's called Export and Import Policies and Practices. So I'm teaching people that are getting their bachelor's degrees about this, but I also have a program that does it in adult and continuing ed, where we train you for careers and businesses. For example, in this country, only 1% of black-owned businesses gross more than $1 million a year. There's no customs brokerage company that earns less than $15 million a year.
I mean, brother could get a piece of this action.
I can show you an African American who, if it wasn't for him, you would not see any Mercedes or BMWs on the street, because they're his clients, as well as Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, Merck, and several other companies, NBC, Barnum and Bailey Circus. I could go on for a long time. And he is just probably about 50 years old now. He's been a customs broker for 33 years. He was going to college, and his first year in college, when he came home from Georgia, his parents told him he needed a summer job. They lived out near Kennedy Airport. So he saw this ad in the paper saying if you knew your way around Jamaica, Queens, and Kennedy Airport, they would hire you. So he goes, he gets the job, but he needed a car, so his father let him use his car. His first week on the job, he only had to go to Kennedy Airport maybe 2 or 3 times a day at most. But when he came home the end of the week, he had earned more money than his mother and father combined.
Oh.
So then they wanted to know, well, what is it that you're picking up at the airport? He said, they're sealed packages. I don't know what's in them because they're sealed, because you can't open these packages. You can't open containers. You're bringing them in for the importer of record. That's your client. They're the ones that have to open it up. So his father told him, no, you're using my car. I want you to go there on Monday and find out what it is that you're doing. So he practiced over the weekend how to ask his boss what was going on, and he ended up being so impressed that he would come after 1 week of working at a freight forwarding company and asking him that he then paid for him to go to college in Queens and trained him and helped him pass the exam to become a customs broker, and eventually he became a partner.
Give him a big hand.
One of the first young men that we trained at Riverside Church, before they kicked me out of there for doing it.
Kick you out?
It's
Yes,
starting
sir.
to become a habit, right?
And kicked Dr. Forbes out also for giving me the space. But, and I have no problem saying that on television. So, because the truth is the truth.
That's right.
And what happened was, one of the young men that we trained, he was like 21, 22 years old. He didn't pass the customs broker test, but he scored a high enough grade that when we sent him for an interview at this all-Jewish company out at Kennedy Airport, he called his mother and grandmother back at home to say that he had been hired, and they couldn't believe that he went on one interview and got hired, and the reason was they didn't want someone else to hire him. And then they made him a partner in an urban wear program because they knew as Hasidic Jewish people, they couldn't go into the boutiques and get them to buy their urban wear, so they put his label in there, gave him 30% of the company, and then we had to help him move out of the Mitchell-Lama development because his first year he had earned over $100,000. And so he had to buy a house because now his mother was paying surcharges in the Mitchell-Lama there in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn.
Oh my goodness.
And for example, we helped 4 young ladies that had come out the military. It's one of the best kept secrets in America because the women that are in the military, since they can't fight on the front line, they give them what you might call clerical support, which is they have them responsible now for moving material and equipment and munitions and everything around the world. But what they don't realize is they've been trained to become freight forwarders and logistics specialists.
My sister getting paid.
No, when they come out, they don't realize that. So they heard me on this radio station talking, and they called in to say it sounded like something like what they used to do. So the same trainer that I'm talking about that started out some 33 plus years ago, brought him into his company, gave him 3 days of training because they knew everything, but they had to be shown the difference between the military software and the private sector software, and they went from unemployment to being able to buy homes in less than 4 months.
That's what I was saying. The sister getting paid, huh?
They're getting paid now.
Yeah.
And then they became customs brokers, and now, yes, they're millionaires, but that's a different issue.
You know, because what we're going to do, we're going, as I said, we're going to bring you back. But also, too, this is something that really, I mean, I had to drop the phone for a moment, what you told me. Because I remember the other day, Ms. Christian and I went to lunch one day, and we go over the show. And we were inside of a restaurant, one in the restaurant, and I said, "Well, I can't tell you what Myles told me in here because maybe they got financed this way." It's about going back to the Eisenhower time.
President Eisenhower created foreign trade zones.
Listen to this.
And foreign direct investment. And if you were to go on the internet today, the Obama administration calls it selectusa.gov. And what it is a way of bringing foreign direct investors to finance your company to help it grow. And they're required to create 10 sustainable jobs. During the Eisenhower administration, sustainable for that $1 million plus was 5 years. Now, since $1 million doesn't go as far, it's only 2 years. But that's how you ended up with this Russian gentleman buying the New York Nets stadium and then getting some Chinese investors to pay for the platform that the stadium is built on. And Mayor Blumberg did that by getting them to invest $268 million.
Also, too, you mentioned
for the platform.
Also, you mentioned that in order for them to, they come from other countries.
They come from other countries.
To stay here, in order for them to get a green card, they had to produce something, right?
They have to, one, they have to help you grow your company. They have to at least spend 6 months of the year advising you by being here. So what it does is it allows their spouse, their children under the age of 21 at the time of application to also get an EB-5 green card visa. At the end of 5 years, that becomes permanent. You know it as Rupert Murdoch, because when he came and bought the Post, he's still an Australian citizen, but he has a permanent green card that he can walk in and out of here as though he had a passport. And since his children, when he bought all of that, were under the age of 21, that's how his son and everyone else lives here. And you know others that have done that. When you go into a 7-Eleven and others and you see people from India and you think that the U.S. government is giving them an SBA loan, no, they've invested $1 million or more.
Somebody else invested in them, right?
The owner has invested $1 million or more, but then what he has done is hired Indian Americans to work for him, so it looks like a store full of folks that just got here, but the only one that just got here is the owner.